All right, troops, welcome to the War Room. My name is Owen. So tonight we might have quite a lengthy show because we are going to be talking about the films that Walter Hill has directed. And he is one of my all-time favorite directors. I have three favorite directors, Walter Hill, Michael Mann, and John Carpenter. And we'll probably do shows on the other two soon. But tonight we're going to talk about Mr. Hill and some of our personal favorite movies. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in the team. So we will start off with the man you all know, John Gerber.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So, and we'll bring in Charlie from Give Me Back My Action Movies.
What's going on, guys?
Hello, sir. How are you? And we have a new kid on the block tonight. We got Ian from Retro Serial. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. So, Ian, tell us a little bit about your channel.
Yeah, I mostly deal with growing up Gen X. Pretty much all subjects growing up Gen X. Mostly it's like entertainment. So movies of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and TV and music and kind of whatever. Every once in a while, we'll tackle a more serious issue like child psychology during Gen X too. But most of the time, it's just lighthearted fun. So, yeah. And it's a podcast as well. So I do interviews with people. I did an interview with you. And we talked about action movies of Gen X. And so that was a lot of fun. That definitely needs a part 2 and part 3. And we do live every Monday night, pretty much every Monday night, unless something comes up, it's live. So yeah, I'm glad to be on. I don't know how much I can contribute. I like this guy's films, but I'm no movie expert.
Well, it's good to have you here anyway. I mean, we're just going to have a casual chat. It's not like we're all been to film school or anything, talking about his oeuvre or anything like that. It's just going to be talking about our personal favorite films, and I'm going to go through sort of a bunch of them. So I've always found that Walter Hill is sort of more an underappreciated director. Like people tend to not talk about him as much, but there are very few movies of his that I dislike. I mean, I just think he's one of the manliest directors. He makes just movies for guys, basically. I think, like particularly movies like Extreme Prejudice or even The Warriors or whatever, Bullet to the Head. It's all just it's always guys, and he always does sort of complicated characters as well, where they're like anti-heroes, and you don't really know that much about them. It's just they're there and they're doing their job or whatever else, and that's it. He doesn't go into too much exposition or whatever, and like even whenever you read any of his scripts, there isn't much detail. It's just sort of short, sharp descriptions of things, and he doesn't go into too much detail, and it just makes for leaner films. I mean, most of his films are around like 90 minutes. Very few of them are longer than that, and that's great. They're all tight, lean films. So I'm going to start off with Ian as our first guest. What is your personal favorite?
This is going to sound weird because I know he did mostly action films, but I know he dipped into like sci-fi horror as well. But one that kind of crosses the line between action film and comedy is 48 Hours. I thought that was a great film. I mean, I was affected by it when I first watched it. It was like one of those films that I thought everybody should be talking about more. And I mean, it's a great film. I mean, that's not the only film that he's done that I like, but I have to say I love 48 Hours because I'm a big Eddie Murphy fan as well. And I kind of think it helped fuel his career at the time too. I think it was like a little like, here's this rising star, but let's put him in this movie, and just kind of fuels together. So
yeah. I agree. Actually, well, we'll talk about the 48 Hours movies now. Then, while we're here, here's my controversial statement. I actually prefer them to the Beverly Hills Cop movies. I think they're much better because they're grittier and harder. And I like that. I love Nick Nolte is just so gruff and rude, and like he's kind of a dick, particularly in the first movie towards Eddie Murphy. And I also even like the second movie. I really enjoy that. And yeah, so I really like the 40 Hours movies, but Charlie obviously has something to say about that. Go ahead.
That was one hell of a hot take, Owen. Yeah. Jeez, man. I love 48 Hours movies. I mean, I really do. Nick Nolte, Eddie, but to me, it's a totally different Eddie Murphy. That's sleazeball, criminal Eddie Murphy. It's very raw Eddie Murphy. Funny, yeah, Eddie Murphy, right? But yeah, that was not planned. But yeah, we need drum sounds. But I do love them. But to say I like it more than the Beverly Hills Cop 3, 100%. I agree with you. Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, I think I'll watch them more than I'll watch the 48 Hours, but I'll watch Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, then 48 Hours and another 48 Hours. I mean, that's how much I do like them. But
Yeah.
that was a hot take, Owen. Why are you going
I
so
know.
hard?
It's
That's
so
early.
You can't start off like that. We're not prepared emotionally for that.
J-Man's not here. What's going on?
I know. I got to do the hot takes tonight with J-Man's not here, so that's mine. But yeah, no, I mean, you've even got the music, which is very similar to Commando, because it's James Horner.
James Horner.
Yeah, the calypso sound basically, which he had back then.
I swear he had one in his garage or something. He just always just banging around on it, going, "This works good for the movie."
Yeah, the music to those movies, like Commando and like 4 Hours and everything, they don't sound like action movie music, and that's the thing. When I remember, anytime I watch them, I'm like, there's really weird music to have in these movies, but for some reason they work.
Yeah. Oh, it works definitely.
Yeah. So, John, what are your thoughts on the 48 Hours movies?
Well, Charlie, you're going to hate me because I'm going to totally agree with Owen right now.
Of course you will.
Okay, Charlie. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, I even like the third Beverly Hills Cop movie for all of its flaws. Eddie Murphy's still funny in it.
Bronson Pinchot comes back. That's worth it. For number 3.
Yes. Beverly Hills Cop is a classic. It's classic Eddie Murphy. His shtick is but again, I gotta. Owen, you nailed it. It's his chemistry with Nick Nolte. They're just two totally opposite people, and Nick Nolte played a dick so well in his movies. I mean, he just plays. Once you see Nick Nolte walk into a movie, once you see Nick Nolte walk into a room, you're just like, this guy is. He's in a bad mood. Don't fuck with this guy because he'll just freaking eat you alive. And I love how they play off each other. And I love, he's like, thanks, Jack. Fuck you, Jack. I just love how he does that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then Eddie Murphy, when he has him go in and pretend he's a cop, he's like, oh sure, I'll go in there and pretend I'm. And he showed everybody the badge and covered just Nick Nolte's face and everything. And then in the second one, he's like, shoots the guy. He's like, anybody else want to live? I mean, it's just the best thing ever. And I gotta go. Walter Hill is an amazing director, and especially with his action movies, his older movies, because every gunshot sounds like a hand cannon going off. It's like when bullets are fired in a Walter Hill movie, you lose hearing. It's just like it's so loud.
Right. It's like you feel it in your chest.
Yes. Yeah. And when somebody gets shot, not only do you see blood squibs, but they fly back 50 feet. How awesome is that? And then 48 Hours, you got James Remar, and then Sonny Landham. I watched it the other day and I'm like, oh my God, that's right. Sonny Landham is in this movie, from Predator. How awesome. And Beverly Hills Cop with Rosewood, they have great chemistry in those movies. But yeah, like Owen, I gravitate towards 48 Hours. Even the sequel is frowned upon, and I'm like, why?
It's awesome. Yeah,
it's got action, it's got comedy. They should have made like 2 more movies together. Unfortunately, they did it, but at least we got 2, and
maybe they knew when to stop. Maybe that's
but still, I mean. There was an audience, and
the studio fucked with it though, and it was like all chopped up because I think the movie was supposed to be like about 2 hours or something, and they really chopped it all down, and then it became not quite the Walter Hill movie. So never mind the Snyder cut. Where's the Walter Hill cut? Oh, another 48 hours. That's what I want to see. Be more interested in that.
And 48 Hours in the sequel, they're like you said, Owen, like in Walter Hill, I call him the king of mean. His movies are mean-spirited, they're the way they are. There's not a lot of likable characters in his movies. In 48 Hours, even though it's an action comedy, it's still pretty raw, and then it's so negative in the fact like how it shows the violence, and he didn't shy away from them. Even in an action comedy, he was like, the bad guys are like the most despicable pieces of shit ever. So
Well, he went more realistic, I think. It was make the bad guys hateable. You want to hate them, but even his good guys, you're kind of like, that guy's kind of a piece of shit too. I don't really like that, and he does that in a lot of movies. As we'll go through, that even the people you're supposed to like, you're kind of like, that guy's a fucking dick. I don't like him.
I'm on his side. I'm on his side because he's the good guy. It's the principle thing, but
exactly.
But I wouldn't hate it if he got beat up while he won.
I like that. That's a good way to go.
I like how the story actually continues in another 48 hours, where Brian James's character is sort of one of his best friends in the first movie, and end up he's the villain of the second movie. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, "Holy shit, Brian James is the bad guy!" I was like, "Of course, Brian James is the bad guy. Brian James was always the bad guy."
But the studio screwed up that it was supposed to be like so much more in depth with Brian James. And again, another movie Brian James gets dicked in, but there was supposed to be so much more story to that to make you feel like it didn't happen in like 10 minutes like it does in the movie. But studios, what do you do?
That's the thing. So Charlie, what is your favorite Walter Hill film?
And like we were talking earlier before we went live, I love all like another 48 hours. The Warriors, while I hadn't seen it for a long time, I'm watching it and I'm glued to the television again, going, man, this is a damn good movie. But I'm gonna go Red Heat. It's the one I've watched the most.
Cocaine.
It's the one Cocaine. You hold the hot rock. And I just love how he knew how to use Arnold. It was one of the few times where we got an Arnold that was probably more believable than what we've been given in other movies. Either he's a robot or he's, this ultimate badass in Commando, anything like that. I liked him in Red Heat, especially with, Belushi beside him, to give you that kind of dynamic. And Belushi didn't even play it so much as like a comedian. He played it more as I'm a dick.
He's more bitter.
But Arnold is a stoic dick in the movie, so it worked though. And I loved how Walter Hill got that out of those two characters. And John, you're talking about the gun sound effects. If there is a Walter Hill movie that has a damn cannon, it's Arnold's gun in Red Heat. And it sounds like artillery going off.
It does,
Red Heat is awesome. That's actually, it's one of Arnold's less appreciated movies as well. I think I did it as an underrated gem article a few years ago, where it's one of the best sort of buddy cop movies. And Walter Hill was great at doing buddy cop movies. He had like the 48 Hours, and then he had Red Heat as well.
Bullet to the Head is kind of a buddy cop. I know we'll get there later, but it's a different buddy cop. We're saying buddy cop because it's supposed to be the little bit lighthearted with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte and Belushi and Schwarzenegger, but still they're not really being comedians. Like Eddie Murphy is just as big as an asshole to Nolte. Belushi is just as big as asshole as Arnold, and Stallone, and I can't think of the guy's name. The guy from
Sung Kang.
They're both dicks to each other the whole fucking movie. It's just something how Walter Hill's able to do that. And I love that's the Walter Hill kind of like stamp on some movies is he can get that kind of emotion out of the guys.
His characters are always tough. And that's the thing. A lot of the time we're similar to Michael Mann that way, where a lot of the male characters are dedicated to their jobs, and their job is like everything in their lives, and that's very much the way of things. But Red Heat is just a lot of fun. It's got a perfect tone. You got the whole bus sequence at the end as well. There's something about that bus sequence where it's connected to another movie. What is it? Is it the same bus from The Punisher or something? I can't remember.
It might be that. Yeah, because there's a bus when he goes, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher that he uses to go
save the children,
save the kids from the Yakuza. That's probably what it is.
Okay, it must be that. Ian, what's your thought? Have you seen Red Heat?
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. It's Arnold at his best. I mean, it's everything we like about Arnold, and I mean, it's almost like a Frankenstein Arnold, because I can see pieces of him in different movies. I see a little sliver of him, of that character in Kindergarten Cop. I see a little sliver of him in Commando there. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a compilation Arnold, in my opinion. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. That's where I was talking, like they got something out of Arnold that we're not used to seeing, and you can just catch glimpses of what Walter Hill saw. He's like, I want to work with this guy, and I have a story. That was the one I was reading up more on today, was Walter Hill literally was like, I want to work with Arnold, but I don't want to do a sci-fi movie. I don't want to do, what he's known for. But if I put him anywhere else in the United States, he seems out of place because he's Austrian, his accent, everything.
Right.
Let's make him Russian.
Yeah.
and then put him in America for some reason that makes sense.
Mm.
Red Heat's believable. There's nothing like ostentatious about it where you're like, oh, that would never happen. No, they would send someone to come transfer a prisoner back to Russia. And that's exactly what the movie centers on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Walter Hill always sort of specializes on his films being realistic. Like you're saying, there's like a realism to them all. I can't think of too many where there isn't anything that, wouldn't happen in real life. There isn't anything where you're like, oh, that's bullshit, where CG overload in the end or anything. There's no lasers going into the sky or anything like that at the end of his movies. It's usually just like guys fighting, and then Bullet to the Head even ends with an axe fight, for crying out loud, which is awesome.
Yes.
How can you not like that? So yeah, so John, your thoughts on Red Heat, and then what is your favorite one of Walter Hill?
What? Oh, you want my favorite Walter Hill movie?
After you talk about Red Heat. Yeah.
Oh, Red Heat. Red Heat's a classic in my eyes. I mean, again, I saw it in the movies. I remember when it came out. And again, just like 48 Hours, it's the chemistry between Belushi and Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger is so deadpan in this movie. He's perfect. It's the perfect. He acts so perfect in it, and I just love his short answers. Like, how can you not love the end? He just blasted Edo Ross away at the end, and blood squibs everywhere, and it's like it's the most violent takedown of a villain ever on screen. And then James Belushi just walks up and he's like, nice grouping of his shots. He's like, thank you. He's like, you're welcome. And he does that through the whole movie. He's like, thank you. You're welcome. He always gives them compliments. And he's like, you're welcome. I left the part. He's like, you're going to tell me about that piece of shit on the floor? He's like, he lives here. I mean, it's just, the lines he uses, it's like they wrote the movie perfectly for Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then, Charlie, you nailed it. His gun is like this big. It's like, he takes it out. It's like, dead. Oh, and then of course they rip on Dirty Harry. Who's Dirty Harry? It's like, and he's got, he's like, that's the gun Dirty Harry used. He's like,
how'd you get that through customs? Diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, it's just been revoked.
Yeah,
different movie.
And then I love the fact that you would never hear this line uttered in a movie today when all the black guys with machine guns are coming. He's like, we got an NBA basketball team heading towards us with guns. It's like, and
canceled.
Yeah, and it's not, and what makes Belushi so awesome is his acting is it's like he's acting like he's not even trying to be funny. It just comes out naturally.
Right. Yes.
He just he just does it, and then he's like standing there waiting for Schwarzenegger to come off the plane at the beginning, and he's like, hey honey, how you doing? She's like, blow me. He's like, okay, no thank you. And he's like, it's like,
exactly.
And then of course you got Peter Boyle, right in the movie as the captain, and then Peter Boyle at the beginning is like, there's no downside to it, and then later on he's like, I was wrong about the downside, and it's like all this shit's happened and everything, and then of course the action and the sound effects, and and again, we talk about this, Owen, all the time. We don't get great villain takedowns. And even with just getting shot, Walter Hill was like, you know what? We're not only going to shoot him, but we're going to do it in the most spectacular way. You're going to want to rewind it and watch it 5 times after you've seen it. So, yeah.
He's very much attributing to Sam Peckinpah, who he...
Yes, Sam Peckinpah.
He wrote The Getaway, which Sam directed. So he'll have taken away a lot of the slow motion shots, which he does, very sort of John Woo-esque. Of course, John Woo was influenced by Sam Peckinpah as well. But whenever I was watching The Long Riders recently, which is actually one of my top 5 Walter Hill films, it's a fantastic movie.
I wanted to watch that one. I didn't get the chance to. I mean, I've seen it good. Just a long time ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. All about Jesse James. But you got the horses crashing through the windows in slow motion, and all the slow motion shootouts, and there's like bloodbath at the end, and it's just so much slow motion, and it just feels like you're watching a Sam Peckinpah movie. It's just sort of, he very much has that kind of style. So was that? Sorry for interrupting you. Okay, so moving on to, what is your favorite movie of his, John?
So this is a no-brainer for me. And again, I love a lot of Walter Hill's movies. We talked about a bunch of them right now. I even love Bullet to the Head, which is the most underrated Sylvester Stallone movie of all time, and I have no idea why. It's got Jason Momoa and him fighting with axes, like you said. And then when Jason Momoa does that flip over the thing, and he's got his legs swing, and he comes, I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever. Yeah. But anyway, my favorite Walter Hill movie, and this is hands down Extreme Prejudice. I fucking love this movie. I've seen it more than any other action movie, I think. Again, it came out at the perfect time when I was in the 80s, when I was developing my love of action. Nick Nolte, I think this is one of Nick Nolte's best movies ever. He is so phenomenal in it. You know, Jack Bentine. Yes. I just love how he's. I kind of wanted to see Jack Bentine and Cordell Walker team up somewhere, you know, because they were like the two greatest Texas Rangers ever, you know. But Michael Ironside, Clancy Brown,
every villain from the 80s in one movie.
Powers Booth.
Booth was the best villain ever, and the late great rest in peace Powers Booth, and I love how there is an ex-Merc team that's going to, you know, they're in town to do a robbery, you know, and they're creating chaos and everything. And Bentine, he's the best anti-hero ever, you know. And again, you were talking about it, Owen. He's married to his job. Maria Conchita Alonso, who was with both him and Cash Bailey, you know, and she chose Jack Bentine, but she's kind of regretting it, kind of, because he's always working and he doesn't show her any time or anything, you know. And then how can you not love that ferocious 5-minute finale where every machine gun imaginable in the world of action movies is used? You got 50 caliber dual machine guns. You got bullets. And how great is it at the end? They have their draw finally, their duel. And Powers Booth is wearing a complete white suit where all the blood squibs are shown miraculously when he gets shot. And not only do it, but it's slow motion as he falls over, you know. I just love this movie to death. It's such a manly movie, and it's got such the great cast and the action scenes. And I forgot about Rip Torn. I can't forget about Rip Torn. I kind of got mad that he got killed in the middle of the movie because I wanted him. They had such great chemistry, him and Nick Nolte working together because they knew each other for so many years and everything. It's like they were their right hand. He was the right hand, he was the left hand, and when he died, you know, you kind of got the sense that, you know, it became super personal, and like I said, the finale is just one of my favorite finales of all time. So that's hands down my favorite movie.
Mm-hmm. It's way up there for me as well. I still can't pick which one is my favorite. This is really annoying.
That's okay.
Extreme Prejudice is definitely way up there. It's kind of joint, but then. I think my favorite, I'm probably going to have to say Hard Times, because Charles Bronson is my favorite actor of all time. The guy is like carved out of stone. He's like the manliest actor. It's like him and Clint Eastwood, like the two manliest actors ever.
And you got fist fighting, the most manliest thing ever.
It's 90 minutes of Charles Bronson punching people in the face. So what's not to like? And then you got James Coburn with his amazing voice, and he's just sort of fast-talking, sort of con man, desperate for money and whatever. And I can't picture anybody else playing that role other than James Coburn. He's so perfectly cast. And then having Bronson as Shaney, just it kind of reminds me of Lionheart. It's almost like a similar movie where he knocks the first fight, he knocks the guy out with one punch. I always just remember. I don't know if I want to fight you or fuck you in Lionheart, you know, when he punches a guy in the dick and he passes out. So it kind of reminded me of that. But there's not much to Hard Times. It's a pretty straightforward story. And once again, like a lot of the script, it's lean. The characters are lean. Bronson doesn't say that much. It's kind of sort of like him in real life. He was very much a sort of stoic, quiet introvert where he'd keep to himself, like on movie sets, and you know he wouldn't really cause any controversy. But I think Hard Times is maybe my favorite. But then there's The Warriors too. So, and just when I was watching The Warriors the other night, and I was like, God damn, this guy can direct. And the thing is, the editing, particularly in the opening of The Warriors, when you got the DJ doing the voiceover, and then it's flipping from each of the characters and the reactions and things like that over the voiceover and everything. And I was like, this is seamlessly put together. I was like, just absolutely perfect. Now I have the Ultimate Director's Cut on Blu-ray, which is a little different, where it has the comic book stuff in it. And
that's the version I watched, I think. Yeah, because he makes it like, you know, when it transitions from scenes.
Comic strip, yeah. But because Walter Ellis says that's the only time where he's done basically a director's cut. He says, I don't really believe in director's cuts. The film I release is the director's cut. But Yeah, it's an amazing movie. There's so many visuals that stick in your head, like the baseball Furies. I love them.
Yeah.
They don't say anything, but they're just really creepy.
Yes.
And that makes them creepy. They're like killer mimes.
And there's mimes.
Yeah,
you
there's
have
mimes
those,
too.
but and then there's mimes.
Yeah.
Like this is demented. I don't like it.
I know. And then you got the "Can you dig it" line, which of course is very iconic now. And then of course
his use of like camera angles in that movie too. Like it's not all just like straight across shots or even just long pan. He'll like get low, then he'll do a shot from above. I mean, I was just watching this going, holy shit, this guy can just like structure a story with very little dialogue. And that's the biggest thing to Warriors.
Yeah. And I mean, even when I was watching Hard Times and during the fight scene, there'll be like an aerial shot of them fighting. And, it's something where you're not really thinking he's going to do. And it just works. And it just sort of builds up the excitement, and the fight scenes are good. I mean, you can see some of the hits aren't making contact, but it's a movie. How dare you not really punch him in the face while making this movie? So, but yeah, I definitely love Hard Times. The Warriors. What's interesting is that Hill works with a lot of the same actors. Like David Patrick Kelly has appeared in most of his films. Like
Sully, I was gonna kill you last, Sully.
Can you dig it? Yeah. See, I know I've lost my train of thought.
But you had like James Remar, who
James Remar shows up.
Again.
Yeah, you could do 6 Degrees of Separation with because when I was watching these movies, it's like even I can't remember what his name is. Even the tall Mexican guy that's in Extreme Prejudice and 48 Hours and Red Heat. I mean, I'm like, this guy's in every. It's like he used the same actors, which is great. And The Warriors, I watched it a week ago. It was the first Walter Hill movie that I watched when I started, doing my research. And the only thing I got a problem with is some of those gangs did not age well. I'm like, somebody's got to tell roller skates and overalls is not a threat.
There are some ridiculous hairstyles and everything too, but it's very much a product of the time.
Yes,
like the side part fro. I don't know what you didn't like about.
I mean, I had a bowl cut in the 80s, so I can't really say anything.
At the beginning, when they're all going to the meeting and they're showing all the different gangs walking and they're all acting like they're cool, and some of them just look ridiculous as shit.
It's like none of you are tough.
No,
but that's the thing. The Warriors they had the coolest outfits. They just had those leather those leather vests on, right?
Yep.
And I love Michael Beck. I mean, Megaforce is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love that movie to death. And Barry Bostwick, you gotta love it. Good guys always win, But Michael Beck, he's such a phenomenal actor, and I got to talk to him at New York Comic-Con. I wish I would have been able to interview him, and I got to and he was the nicest guy ever. He just loved that I was such a fan, and and I wish, I even watched him in Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John, for God's sakes. That's how pathetic I am. But I had sisters growing up too, so I was forced to watch some. So I still have my action cred. I had sisters. I'm sorry, But Michael Beck, and he's so. I don't know. He's just got that certain something in this movie. Like, as soon as the head, what's the one black guy, their leaders gets taken down like right away, like when the shooting starts, and, he just takes over. Well, he's the second in command, but James Remar, of course, is fighting with, but he's just got that. He's just got no fear in his face. You could just tell he's just like, even, and he nailed that part perfectly. Swan. I love that name too.
He played that calm, cool, just kind of ready for everything.
And I love
the stoic leader. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say he almost never panics in the movie. Like he gets excited, obviously.
Yeah.
But he almost never even when he's dealing with James Remar during the, where they're like, I'm going to be in charge. I'm the head boss. He was just like, no, man, this is how it's going to have to go.
And I love, like, of course, like you say, he gets excited when they have to run and everything. But I love when they're in the shadows watching other gangs and you just see him looking and he just, and he's just standing there. He looks like he's in total control. And it's like, if I was on the gang, I would be like, wherever you're going, I'm going with you. So that's
pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's what worked. That was the core group of them followed him. And, the majority of them made it, so that he kind of kept them alive as they, made through all the fights and everything.
And then
Warriors is fantastic.
And then how you can't, it's so iconic. Warrior. It's so chilling when he does that.
He improvised that. That wasn't even in the script.
Did he? I didn't know that.
That's even better.
I had heard that an old man did it in his neighborhood when they were growing up as kids, and he would do that to scare them off when they're being annoying. So he added that into it. Then I also heard, I keep hearing different things. You never know what's real and what's not. So if this is bullshit, I'm sorry. I just go whatever. It's on the internet, so it has to be true. And there's another one where he was bullied as a kid, and the bullies would do that. So I don't know which story is true. It's sort of like, you want to know how I got these scars? I can make up the story.
But I mean, that's believable. I mean, it is, like you said, it's very chill. It's very horror movie-ish at that point. When that car rolls up, it's basically a hearse, rolls up on them. They're all hot. And again, you were talking about him being in the shadows in some of the movie, that part where they're all under the cover and he's just barely kind of lit up just right. Another Walter Hill way of doing things where he can just get
emotion.
It's
amazing. Yeah.
Perfection, and the shots of perspective from them looking at them and then from inside the car, it's fantastic. There's nothing not to like about the Warriors.
It just oozes atmosphere from opening.
That's the word, atmosphere, right there, all the way through the movie.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was sort of like, this really is pretty much like a perfect movie. There was nothing about it where I was like, I didn't like that, or I didn't like this. I was like, no, everything about it just flows perfectly there. And whenever I find with any of Walter Hill's films, there are very few scenes where I'm like, that scene didn't need to be there. They're always so tight. Any scene where if it slows down anything, that's called character development. It's just building up the characters, and it just works really, really well. So The Warriors is definitely way up there. Right? See. Then there's Streets of Fire as well, and Streets of Fire is awesome.
That's my jam.
With Michael Pare. I mean, I got the Steelbook Blu-ray of that, and that's amazing. And you got the amazing music. I mean, yes, it feels more like a music video rather than an action movie, but it's still so amazing and stylish that it was unlike anything I'd seen before. And even now, whenever I watch it, I'm like, God, I love this movie. Michael Pare was so cool in it.
He was just like Swan, and I love how it says another place, another time, because you don't. Is it the 50s? Is it the 80s? It's like you
timeless.
Don't know. Yeah, it's timeless. Yeah, and he was so badass in that, and I love how who would I be with Diane Lane? But he leaves. He's like, I don't want to be carrying your luggage for you. I'm like, how badass is that? It's like he's like and then. And then of course, just like the axe fight in Bullet to Head, you got sledgehammers with Willem Dafoe. And
Willem Dafoe is a villain. I mean, Tick, he just can't.
Creepy as shit. He looks like a vampire. And again, he's wearing overalls, but he makes it work. Leather overalls, so whatever that is.
This was one that I was wanting to watch. I was searching everywhere today because I was like, I probably haven't seen Streets of Fire in 20 years. So I was trying to catch up on things. I do remember certain parts. I know what Willem Dafoe looked like. He has a very greaser kind of look to him, the way they did his hair and everything. But I did read up a little bit, and I think the perfect explanation of that movie was proto steampunk. It was like before what we even knew what steampunk is. If you go back and watch it, there's all these little things that have like slowly been built up over the years now to become what we know as, cyberpunk and steampunk and all this other stuff. Started with like Streets of Fire. Streets of Fire could look like that with just very little tweaks. And I was looking at some of the pictures of it going, just the way, again, how Walter Hill shot with atmosphere. That's the best word for Walter Hill movies is atmosphere, and Streets of Fire has that. And even though we're going to be done talking about tonight, I'm going to find that movie and watch it again, because that's how much I did want to watch it.
Let's not forget Amy Madigan. She works so well off Parade. And I love how her and Rick Moranis just took shots at each other all movie long. And I love how Rick Moranis is, he's like, I could have told you she was a torch. I am a dumb shit. He's like, he makes them pay him and stuff like that. And the music, like tonight's When It Means to Be Young is like on my playlist, and I listen to it like almost every day. I just love that. It's almost got like an Evanescence, that group type feel to it.
Yeah.
And I just love that song. And the ending when she's singing it, and he's just in the back watching her one last time. So iconic. And then he doesn't even finish the movie. He just walks out, and it's just, again, it's probably number 2 for me. I mean, some days it's like Extreme Prejudice, Streets of Fire. So there's my 1-2 right there.
It's so hard, I know. By the way, Ian had to leave. He had a family emergency, so he's going to be back. So
I hope the best
for that. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll continue on.
Okay. Sure.
Now, I
Oh, and you look so torn.
I love
this is his idea.
Yeah, I know it's my
right. Okay, this was his idea to do this.
Yeah, he is my favorite director, right? So that's the thing. But I love Last Man Standing. It is my third favorite Bruce Willis film.
That's number 3 for me.
It's like Die Hard, The Last Boy Scout, and Last Man Standing. Those are the 3 best Bruce Willis films. Yes. He is at his absolute coolest in these 3 movies, particularly this one. Nobody makes eating an apple look so cool, and he does. He's just sitting back in the chair, and it's because I'm such a nice guy. And it's just so cool. And I was like, no one's going to be as cool as Bruce Willis in this movie. Nobody. And this is why we love Bruce Willis, was for the characters he played here, and John Smith, who is of course another Kurosawa remake.
Yojimbo,
and it's practically like word for word. It's funny. It's like very, very similar. I mean, when I watched Yojimbo recently, I was like, wow, this is
guns really instead of swords. That's really the only different.
Yeah.
But I think what Walter Hill can do with his actors, and he picks them specifically, he goes, this is Bruce Willis. This whole dialogue and everything. And Bruce Willis feels like he was pulled straight out of the 50s or 40s or 30s even, dropped into this, and it's perfection. The Last Man Standing is like probably in my top 20. If I'm just going by action movies, it's in a top 20. If we're talking Walter Hill, it's a top 5, 100%.
And then you got Ry Cooder's score, and Walter Hill worked a few times, and the music is so cool. I listened to it when I was driving. Whenever we were in Vegas, I deliberately went for a drive in the desert and listened to Last Man Standing just so I could pretend I was John Smith for a few minutes.
I love Last Man Standing because I mean I don't to me, and I've seen it a bunch of times, it's Walter Hill doing John Woo. Like this is the closest thing to like a John Woo flick we have like at that time. And like I just love how he just has the double guns. And again, this is probably the movie that, of course, he kills Patrick Kilpatrick at the beginning. Not only does he shoot him, but Patrick Kilpatrick flips over and like lands on his
flying
head.
Back.
Yeah. Everybody flies back. 8,000 feet, and then the ending is just perfection. And then you got freaking Christopher Walken. How can you make him more menacing? Well, say that he can't talk. He's got scars.
Children, we'll go matchsticks.
Well, then we got David Patrick Kelly again in this. Another Walter Hill classic character.
Nobody shouts like David Patrick Kelly. You're like, stop shouting at me. It's just fucking terrifying.
He shouts in Commando, but it's only because he's upside down. I really wanted him to go yell at someone.
Yeah.
But and then Christopher Walken, just to go back real quick, I just love how at the end he's like, can you kill me later? Like maybe in Chicago. I don't want to die in Texas. And then of course he whips around it, and of course he blows his way anyways. But and
it's a good line.
Man in the back. Yeah.
And then how can you beat a Bruce Willis movie where he's screwing a girl and then shoots people naked? He's butt naked,
and she's talking the whole way through it.
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. I'm surprised we brought that up, but okay. Let's go.
But no, because it reminded me of Shoot 'Em Up with
Clive Owen.
It's like it's like so ingenious. It's like
are you gonna stop to put pants on if someone's shooting at you?
That's the best part about
you just
it,
go
Charlie.
You come out swinging, and I don't mean with your fists.
And I tell you what,
talk about shooting your load.
I forgot that scene. I forgot about that scene when I watched it this week. I'm like, oh, that's right. He's butt-ass naked.
I haven't watched Last Man Standing for a couple of years, but it's actually the Walter Hill film I watched the most. Like I watched it tons of times. I remember seeing it in the cinema and thinking, oh my God, this is so awesome. I love this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. And I've watched it so many times. So I love that. Yeah, David Patrick Kelly is great. Whenever, like, he can be menacing just by sitting there. Like, and he didn't have like a huge role in The Warriors, but yet anytime he's on screen, he's terrifying and he's just unhinged.
Yeah, that's why he's scary. He's not tall. He's not big. He's mental.
Crazy. That's the thing. Yeah, it's just really, really scary. Yeah.
And that's what made the ending of Warriors like that much more impactful, was because he was this terrifying character you're watching through the movie, and then all of a sudden he's this sniveling little bitch.
At
the end,
like so many people. It's just a coward.
Just it. So he plays that really well. That I don't want to be mean, but he kind of has that rat face to him, so you kind of want to hate him, but it works.
And I love how he's the cleaner now in the John Wick movies.
Yeah,
He's
I love
"How you
that.
doing?" Yeah. Nice
I
doing
love
this.
that.
You know,
How you
he
doing,
tips his
Charlie?
hat.
She's Charlie in the John Woos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how, like I was saying, now Walter Hill uses like the same actors. Like we had Powers Booth in Extreme Prejudice, but then he was also in Southern Comfort as well. Southern Comfort's a great movie too. It's like really tense.
Another good one.
Yeah, I mean they're all so good. It's been a couple of years since I watched Southern Comfort, but I remember thinking it was awesome, really intense. Oh, it's really good. Definitely worth checking out. And Keith Carradine is in it, and Keith Carradine was also in The Long Riders. I mean, The Long Riders, you had Keith and David Carradine, and then Stacy Keach and his brother, and it was all the siblings playing siblings in the movie. It was really good. Once again, 93 minutes, I think. I've written an underrated gem article for it, and I've done a Sumi I Love Bullet to the Head article on actually, so I've got them both ready to go in the next few weeks. Yeah, because The Long Riders is one that nobody really talks about. I haven't heard too many people mention that, and I just ended up watching it for the first time a couple of years ago, and I was like, this movie's awesome. So
yeah, I haven't seen either of those. I need to watch those.
Southern Comfort. I mean, again, they're right. Like it is an analogy of the Vietnam War, and the Cajuns are almost like apparitions. Like it's so scary how they own that territory, and like again, the National Guardsmen are like jackasses if you think about it, because they steal their boats, they fire blanks at them, but they don't know they're blanks. So they kind of did it to themselves.
Right.
And so. And I love the ending because it's kind of ambiguous, though.
You're not quite sure,
yeah, because you see that the army come in, but then it ends in slow motion, and they're just like looking like they don't, I just love the ending.
Yeah, and he does sort of the cinema of ambiguity, and that's what he does. Where it's like ambiguous characters, and that's a thing where they're not quite good, not quite bad, or whatever. They're flawed, and that makes them more interesting.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the movies like that. Sorry if I keep moving around. I'm soaking because it's so hot here.
You're
fine. Yeah, my window's closed, and it's so hot in here because they've got trains going past. Anyway,
and this sling is the hottest thing ever. I mean, my arm is like so sweaty in this thing right now. It's
but yeah, going into like characters who are sort of ambiguous is Trespass. That's another great movie too. And I was like, you got Ice Cube, Ice-T. Now, I think this was actually the first film I watched of his back in the 90s, and I was like, oh, this guy's great, Walter Hill. And then I went through and started watching all of his movies, and then Last Man Standing as well. Was Last Man Standing before Trespass or after? I think it was after. I think Trespass was like 1992. 2 seconds,
I'll let you know. I got it queued up here.
I think Trespass was 92, and Last Man Standing was 96. I think
96 for Last Man Standing.
96, for Last Man Standing.
Because I used to listen to the Trespass soundtrack all the time. Once again, you had Ry Cooder doing the score, but then you had also cool hip hop tunes as well.
Love Ry Cooder. Movies,
I mean, Trespass is cool, and it's funny. I noticed last time I watched it, and this isn't me being woke. It's just a simple fact of the matter, but there are no women in the movie whatsoever, at all. The cast is entirely men, and it's just them looking for the gold. You got Bill Paxton, Bill Sadler. I mean, two of the greats right there. So it's an awesome movie. Yeah. I believe it's isn't it a pastiche on the Maltese Falcon? I think it is kind of a remake of that, kind of.
Yeah, I did read that.
It's been a while.
I think it was something like that. Yeah. So, but no, Trespass is good. Have you seen it, Charlie?
I have. Another one of those. It's probably been like 25 years since I watched it. It was that Ice-T phase, after I watched him in Tank Girl. What else has he been in? So I'm gonna go. But seriously, he was in Surviving the Game. Was the other one that he was in.
Good double bill with Hard Target.
Yeah. So it was, go find these movies that this guy's in, and obviously it's Bill Paxton. You're gonna watch any movie that Bill Paxton was in. But it's been a while. There's only so many days between announcing this and then Friday.
I mean, that's the thing. It's been a few years since I've watched some of them, and I just haven't had the time. There was more stuff I didn't
barely got Warriors in. I feel like I did pretty good to get that one in.
Man Apart asks, where do you guys rank Bronson in action stars? Okay, well, I'll just tell you right now, he is my number one. He is my favorite actor of all time. In terms of action stars, I don't know. Like my childhood favorite is Van Damme. Will always be Van Damme, obviously from all posters behind me. And Van Damme is also the action star who supports the site more than any other action star. Him and Scott Adkins, I would say, do. But like Van Damme comments on posts and stuff on the Facebook page or whatever. So Van Damme will always be number one. But Bronson is God, and he is just my absolute hero. And Hard Times is one of my favorite movies. So Hard Times is number one there.
Oh, he answered it.
Yeah.
Wait, wow.
This party's over.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Can we like put a little star beside the video?
Yeah, there you go.
So this is where Owen decided.
Yeah,
I'd say Bronson's probably like top 10 for me, for sure. I can't put him any lower than that.
No, I mean,
that's not saying
so
he's number
manly.
10.
Yeah.
I'm saying
he's in the top 10. Yeah.
You can't ask these kind of questions on live streams, man.
Yeah, that's not fair. This requires
I need prep.
I love Van Damme too.
Batman. Nice.
You know, Van Damme, you're a man apart. You're all right. You can stay.
I like it. We like it.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah. A comment. Wow. Someone's actually watching.
I like this.
And it's not my mom. Wild Bill. Have you seen that? Jeff Bridges?
Okay. I did, but that was one I did not get to revisit this week.
Yeah, I watched it a couple of years ago. Don't remember much about it. I remember enjoying it. It wasn't one of my favorites of his, but it was good.
Yeah.
Jeff
Bridges is awesome.
We covered Tombstone not long ago, so we kind of touched on Wild Bill a little bit because you can't really talk about one without the other. They were almost like back to back, and this one probably more accurate, but fell to the wayside a little bit more just because of how popular Tombstone was. But again, another movie that I would like to revisit, but for a lot of people I've talked to are like, nah, you don't have to revisit it. It's okay.
Yeah, it's kind of middling. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, it's better than most films you see in the cinema now, but that's not hard.
That's really not hard to do right now.
No, indeed. Also, remind me before I finish tonight, I saw the Avatar trailer the other night, and I want to talk about the Avatar 2 trailer and talk about my thoughts on that.
I did too. I saw Doctor Strange today. They showed it when I went today to go see Doctor
Strange. Right. Were you as underwhelmed as we were with it? The trailer?
Underwhelmed is an understatement. I went with my friend. My friend took me. We love movies, and we both looked at each other. We were like, it's more blue people flying around.
Yeah. There's nothing in it where I was like, I have to see this. I mean, we were like,
but
it was on a loop, so we were watching it, and we're like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll watch it, obviously, but
I think that's James Cameron's plan. Like, he didn't want to show you anything really mind-boggling, but that could hurt it in the long run, though. I mean, I guess it's going off name, like the success of the name. But
how many years has it been now?
12. I think it's 2009.
Out.
Yeah, it's like, hurry up! How long does it take?
Just something.
And the thing is, though, and the reason why I will be there to see it is that when I met Linda Hamilton, she said to me, never underestimate James Cameron. And so many people do.
Well, I'll believe that. Yeah.
Even I said that I remember before Avatar came out, I was like, that looks fucking stupid. There's giant blue cat people. Why am I interested in watching this? It's Dances with Smurfs. I don't care.
All Smurfs.
Yeah. But then I watched it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that was awesome. Whenever I saw it in the 3D, watching at home, it's never been the same since watching your TV. You're like, it's not that interesting. But in the 3D was amazing. That was really cool because it was unlike anything I'd seen before.
My thing with Cameron is, while he's a great director and actors and everything, his machinery, his ships, his mechs, anything robotic, I absolutely adore.
Yeah, the mechs, like it had the cool like mech robot things and Avatar. Those were awesome. I want more of that.
But even the hover, the helicopter / hovercraft looking things that they flow around, his designs, and he's part of that. I'm sure he didn't draw every one of them, but he probably did a sketch and went, I want that. That's what it look like. That's, but that's what I like about it. I'm going to watch them. I think we're doing Doctor Strange this weekend. I wasn't going to try and do it during the middle of the week.
I actually love Doctor Strange, and it might be my favorite film that I've seen this year. I preferred it to the Batman because I was like, at least this movie's actually fun.
It's definitely
I expect it to be better than is it better than the Spider-Man No Way Home?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but Spider-Man No Way Home is a great nostalgia movie, but it's really all it is.
You're not wrong. There's two big reasons I love that movie more than others.
And that's the thing. Yeah. But
there's some cool surprises in it.
Yeah, this is the best cameos of any Marvel movie. And
right.
John, stay on after we. I'll remove Charlie later, and we'll talk about it, so we don't spoil anything for you.
Appreciate that, guys.
So we don't want to spoil anything. So
We
anyway,
wouldn't do that.
no, we would never do that. So back to the topic at hand. Oh, and you know, I actually sometimes forget this is a Walter Hill film, but he directed the first Undisputed.
Yes.
Before Boyka, and
nobody remembers it because of Scott Adkins and what he did with the
Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames. And Ving Rhames plays the Chambers character before Michael Jai White played him. And Wesley Snipes is the badass sort of hero in it. But once again, they're both complicated characters, neither of which is likable, but neither of which is fully evil either. So I thought that Chambers was kind of based on Mike Tyson at the time. That was interesting, and he had good fight scenes and everything. And once again, just manly as fuck. It was still a good movie. I mean, I know people like prefer the Scott Adkins films, and this almost just works on a movie in its own. I don't feel it's the same because it's kind of weird, but it's still a damn good movie. Once again, not one of my favorites of his, but still a really good movie.
Yeah, and again, it's like him going back to hard times, in terms of the boxing, and like it's coming, they're gonna fight, but then it's still at the end. It's like it's you're not let down. At least I wasn't let down by the fight at the end.
No, not at all. Yeah. Oh no, I never mentioned. Oh damn.
But I didn't get to watch it, so again, it's not fresh in my, especially my day.
I just watched it like a month or so ago. I just watched it recently. But damn it, I forgot the driver. The driver's way up there too. Oh man, see the driver, Ryan O'Neal and Bruce Stern. Without the driver, there wouldn't be Drive. Drive is practically a remake of this film. The Driver's better, but the Driver is one of my favorite films of his. Damn it, Walter! Why'd you have to be so talented?
I like how Owen has just gone from like 2000 all the way back down to 1978. That's the best.
I told you there's no structure or script to this at all.
That's fine. I'm watching your thought process though is hilarious because I love how I did this. Damn it, I forgot about the driver.
Yeah, it's like shit.
Well, that's the thing. I got to watch a lot of them. One, I obviously have issues, so I'm not working right now. So like my wife works third shift, so I got to watch a lot of these movies. But then even I got through both 48 Hours. I did Last Man Standing. I did Bullet to the Head. I did Extreme Prejudice. I mean, I did them all except, and I'm looking down. I'm like, damn, I still got to watch this one. I still got to watch. Shit. And then I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it.
Mine was, it's not streaming. Get a 30-day free trial. I'll forget and end up costing me money. I'm not doing all this.
Yeah, I just canceled my Netflix recently because they're like, oh, we've raised the price to like $20 or something. And I was like, oh, have you? Goodbye. You don't make enough good stuff for me to stay with it. So
when commercials start running on mine, I'm cutting it. That's my line
that's
right there.
That's definitely
because it's going to be, well, if you pay an additional $3, you'll get Netflix Premium without commercials. I'm like, that's just a price hike that you're hiding. Hulu did that. It's like, whoa, get Hulu Plus.
I got my DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K collection. I'll just stick to them.
I still collect physical media. I'm good,
and I got a drawer of VHSs right there, and my VHS player right behind me.
I lost so many, and then of course, I'm not buying much of anything these days, but I got to build it up, and there's so many. Like I went to Dollar Tree today, and my wife.
I love Dollar Tree.
$1.25. Here's the funny thing: you should appreciate this, Owen. I got Blu-rays of Speed, Bad Boys, and Green Zone with Matt Damon, but they're Spanish.
Sorry.
Hey, God, they're Spanish packaging. It's the Spanish packaging.
Oh, cool.
Blu-rays. So I was like, these are like collector's items. So I go to my wife. I go $1.25. I love these movies. She's like, are they in English? I'm like, yes, they're the English. It's just the packaging.
It's just the cover.
Yeah. So I was so excited today. And it was affordable for me. So I was like, I'm so.
I can't tell you how many times I walk out of Dollar Tree with a stack of DVDs. I'll get movies like Skin Trade with Dolph Lundgren and Tony Jaa, or Monster Brawl with just a bunch of like old time wrestlers in a horror movie that's a fight cage.
Did you know it's Owen's quote on Skin Tree?
No, I didn't.
Front cover, baby.
It's on my workbench in there. I'll have to look and see.
It says a must see for action fans.
Do you remember the day, Owen? I was still working. This is before I had my issue, but I worked at Lowe's, and it was next door. And I went on my lunch, and I saw Skin Trade. I'm like, oh, I love this movie. And then I snapped a picture of it. And I'm like, oh, and I found your movie, and I sent it to him.
Nice.
I love when I haven't,
look.
I haven't been quoted in anything for a long time, but they haven't made good movies for a long time. But anyway, make good movies and everybody will. But yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a few I was quoted on. There was one with Sam Worthington called The Hunter's Prayer, which I thought was all right.
Did you get quoted for that one?
I'm quoted in French on the back cover, and I got a Canadian Blu-ray, and I bought it. And one of my friends from work, she tagged me on Instagram. She's like, "Oh, go on, you're quoted in this Blu-ray." And that's
and it was the quote was it was all right, and they were like, "That's the best review we got."
Pretty much, yeah. Because I did the first review in the world of the movie because
that makes sense.
It's here, and it's really dodgy cinema downtown, and it's basically where old guys go to, take their pants off in the cinema or whatever.
Those still exist.
Yeah, I was like, can you not point that at me while I'm trying to watch this movie? And I was the first person to sort of see the movie, and I did the review that day. And I think it was somebody actually saw this movie. We'll just quote him. And that's basically I was the only person that saw it.
Nice.
So
Take
anyway,
it as a win.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. One of the other films of Walter Hill, which is another sort of forgotten one. I got it on Blu-ray. Don't love it, but I do enjoy it. Is Johnny Handsome with Mickey Rourke.
I love that movie, and again, I haven't seen it in years. I wanted to try to watch it, but I didn't have it on Blu-ray, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was so mad. I wanted to watch it.
That's one I think needs to be come back out, like one of those boutique kind of DVD people needs to release that one again.
The Blu-ray has some good special features on it, though. It has an interview with Alan Graff. Now, Alan Graff is a stuntman who's been in pretty much every single Walter Hill film. I think he was a quarterback. And Walter Hill saw him playing football or something one day and said, "I want you to be in the movies with me, or to be in a movie or something." And he was in Johnny Handsome. He talks about doing this opening stunt and everything, and it's just really, really cool. He's a guy where once you see him, you're like, "Oh, it's that guy." He is always in movies, just in like a brief scene. Like he's the chef in Universal Soldier. Hey, punk, I've been cooking this slop all day.
Okay.
And then he's a bus driver in 48 hours or another 48 hours, and he just always shows up in these movies, and there's the opening of Johnny Handsome as well. So the interesting thing about Johnny Handsome is that Mickey Rourke looks more like Johnny Handsome now.
Before,
pre-surgery.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mickey.
God, what did you do, Bubba?
I know. I mean, someone said earlier he's looking more like Michael Myers every day.
He did his boxing thing, and it kicked the shit out of him, and he tried to have plastic surgery.
Lots of plastic surgery, and now he just looks weird.
Roll with it, man. Just have that character to your face, because that would have kept you in movies.
Chicks dig scars. Chicks dig scars, man.
That's it, man. Now, I remember when Johnny Handsome came out, and I remember I watched it, and it just didn't really grab me. You know, it was just one of those. Of course, I was young. This came out like 89, so it was probably on VHS, probably about the time I was renting R-rated movies. And Mickey Rourke, I'm going to watch it. It just never really like struck. If I rewatched it now, knowing what I know, and
watch it as an adult. It's exactly better as an adult. Yeah,
I think adolescent kid was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching. I need more action than this movie has.
Yeah. No, it's definitely worth a rewatch. I mean, I did enjoy it. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, the Blu-ray, because I had just some cool behind the scenes stuff. But
that's decent.
Walter Hill himself never seems to give many interviews, though. And anytime I see him, he looks absolutely fucking terrifying. He looks like a really intimidating guy. Anytime I just see him, I'm like, I would be terrifying. If I interviewed him, I'd just be like, the entire conversation. I was like, please don't kill me. If he was back in the Wild West, he'd be a sheriff. He just he just comes across that way. And it's funny, so many of his films are basically westerns. Like Extreme Prejudice is basically
a modern day western.
And they all got, and of course Last Man Standing as well. And even Streets of Fire, he's basically like the lone gunslinger kind of thing, wanders into town and leaves by the end or whatever. So that's very much a thing. But now on to the second last movie he did was Bullet to the Head. With Sylvester Stallone and Jason Momoa. And I don't know, I remember some dickhead, I can't remember what website it was on, but they commented and said, why would anybody interested in watching this? It's not the 80s anymore. And I was like, well, you're a dick.
That's fighting words with me.
Yeah, I mean, literally, if I saw that guy, I'd just punch him in the throat. I'd be like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass.
Yeah. So I burned his house down, and that was the end of that. And yeah,
justifiable.
Yeah, but the thing was, Bullet to the Head felt like an old school 80s sort of buddy kind of cop movie. Even maybe not buddy cop movie, because it's really gritty and violent. I mean, when I was
they're never buddies. They're never
they're not buddies at all. That's the thing.
He keeps saying how he's going to take him in. I'm going to take it when this is over. I'm taking it when this is over.
Yeah.
Well, they threaten to kill each other like half a dozen times in the movie. They pull guns. Like, I swear he always pulls a gun on Sylvester Stallone every time Stallone looks at him. Sue Kang is, when they're sitting in the car going to his daughters, he's like, boom. Yeah. Like, what the fuck, dude? We're talking. He's like, no.
And excuse me, if I'm an idiot and I get into the car with my I don't know, was that his chief? I forget. And he pulls a gun on him, and Sylvester Stallone saves his life. Even if you're a criminal and you're a hitman, I would still be like, I owe you forever. But he's kind of like, yeah, you saved my life. I'm still going to take you in when this is over.
Yeah, I'll be like, okay, go away. I'll pretend I never saw you. Yeah.
He's like, I don't care that you saved my life. It's fine. You still got to pay for all your sins, basically. But this was a super cool, calm Sylvester Stallone. Just,
Jimmy Bobo.
God, Jimmy Bobo. I love that name.
What a name, man.
Brilliant name. Stallone has the best names.
And then you got Momoa, who is not like the hulking Momoa we know now, Aquaman and all this. He was fit.
He's a good villain.
He was a great villain. He was also just as charismatic, very cool. He used, the cool looking knife, just all these like things that just kind of make you remember the movie. I remember when I watched this movie came out with no flash. I just went, okay, so Stallone, I almost thought it was like a straight to DVD kind of thing. And I watched it and I went, holy shit, this movie's fantastic. And I watched it again. And like Owen said earlier, anytime I get a movie where dude's fighting with fireman axes at the end of a movie, sold, I'm in. That's all I need. I love Bullet to the Head. I almost wanted to say that over Red Heat, but I've seen Red Heat more. And I just have that nostalgia for that one. But whoever said like, oh, this was made for the 80s, no shit, this is made for the 80s.
Dickhead.
It's Walter fucking Hill, man. That's exactly what it was supposed to be.
Yeah. So I love it. Great score as well. I mean, the music in his films is always great. I think Ry Cooder is retired now. As is it Steve Morello? Is that who does the music to Bullet to the Head? Because it is kind of reminiscent of Ry Cooder. So like, okay, it's Ry Cooder light. But the music is still really cool. So it's twanging guitars and everything. Action movies need twanging guitars to be awesome. So the music's cool. Do you remember before the movie was actually made, Thomas Jane was supposed to be in it, and Joel Silver said we need somebody more ethnic. And that's literally what he said. I mean, how cynical is that? And then they got Sung Kang in it instead, and that's literally what he said.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it kind of works better with Sung Kang over Thomas Jane. I mean, Thomas Jane, I wouldn't have gone ethnic. I would have been like, we need someone less vanilla. That's probably how I would have approached that type of, we need that little bit of dynamic. But I mean, you already had Momoa. He's already pretty much Samoan. You had that different kind of look to Stallone is what you needed, was someone to stand out against Stallone. And, soon does that to a degree in this movie, holding his own at least against him anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I love Bullet to the Head. It's definitely one of my favorites. Like every single other movie we've discussed.
Was this your favorite, Owen?
No, it isn't my favorite. No. All right, I'm just going to go right. Let's go right. So, The Driver, 48 Hours, Streets of Fire, Last Man Standing, The Warriors, Hard Times. Fuck, that's six. That's six movies. Those are all my favorite. I love them all. But yeah, I'm going to go Hard Times is my absolute number one. Definitely.
Can I just go with the bullet to the head a little bit more? It's just
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So okay. So when we talked about I talked about bullet to the head a little bit earlier because I got off on it. But I think it was so underrated, and I think Stallone's problem is like if it's not Rambo or Rocky, I mean the Expendables is one thing because you got the thing of having all the guys in there and everything, but I think people don't gravitate to Stallone if he's not Rambo or Rocky, and it's a real shame because he plays some other great characters in single movies, and he plays his character so. I mean, he's a hitman, but he's a likable hitman. I mean, he's like he's. Is it bad what he's doing? I'm like, well, he's probably he kills the cop at the beginning, but he's dirty. He was like the worst thing ever. But
it's the anti kind of
anti-hero.
That's a Walter Hill thing, though. You gotta hate him, but I don't want you to hate him.
He's the best of the bad bunch, kind of thing,
right? Because now you have to hate Momoa. So that he has this balance, this ballet he does with his characters that work.
Yeah, and I just love his lines in the movie. Like I love when he's talking to Sun King in the car, and he's like, "We got to take him down." He's like, "You mean take him in?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, whatever.
Yeah,
it's like
whatever gets you to agree. Yeah,
yeah. And then at the end, when Momoa throws the axe at him, he's like, "What are we, Vikings now?" I'm like, I love that. It's like
we're gonna fight. We're gonna talk to death.
And I just love this movie. I mean, I might put it in. It's definitely an honorable mention for me. And and I love the fight at the end. And I just love how they never truly. Because Walter Hill didn't do the stereotypical, they become wholesome friends. They're still,
He doesn't do that. He doesn't do, what's the word I'm looking for? He doesn't do like saccharine or anything sentimental.
He doesn't give you the ending you expect. It's like go back to Red Heat. Arnold goes right back to Soviet Russia. In any other Americanized movie, he would have transferred.
He
to
joined the
Chicago.
department.
Exactly. He would have done exactly what Beverly Hills Cop did. But that's Walter Hill's like, no. He goes back to do his thing. No one gets the moral, the comeuppance, the G.I. Joe, the more you know kind of thing at the end of the movie. It's like, it's done. Everybody goes their separate ways.
He doesn't conform to what society wants, and that's
a good way to put
it. And in this movie too, and like I said, honorable mention for me. And again, blood squibs, 80s throwback, and again, it's a shame that if it's not Rocky or Rambo, mainstream audiences basically tend to not. I love the fact that he's doing Tulsa King for Taylor Sheridan on TV coming up. I got to see that shit because Yellowstone is one of my favorite. But Stallone's so great in this movie, and he's so low key, and I love his relationship with his daughter. I love the fact that at the beginning, like he's like your girlfriend. He's like, she's my daughter.
It just immediately puts him in his place. And we were talking about like Charles Bronson. How high you put up. If I had to pick like my favorite action hero, it's probably Stallone. I'm like you. He's more than Rambo or Rocky to me. He was John Spartan in Demolition Man. Yeah. He was in Cliffhanger.
Gabe
he
was
I mean, all these movies that I absolutely love, and we've had this conversation where it's like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and I'm like, fuck, that's a hard question. But if I have to look at their body of work, Stallone actually comes out ahead of the majority of movies I've liked of his over Schwarzenegger's. Now, quality of movies, they're more even, but if we went by quantity, I'm like, Stallone just kept going and going. And Stallone always considered himself an actor. He didn't want to be the, only action guy. But I like movies like Get Carter. Get Carter was a good movie.
He's more of a...
And a lot of people
hate
Carter.
He's more of a filmmaker than Arnold. Arnold is just a bodybuilder who's in action movies, basically, and that's it. But Stallone is actually understands the craft and is directed and written and everything.
He's an Oscar winner.
And he's an innovator, like creating, Rocky and creating the Expendables and things like that. I mean, that's awesome.
No one else was doing it. Everyone else had the opportunity to do that.
He's always the underdog. Everyone thinks, he's done, and then he comes back and does something.
It's that whole, I'm this guy. So no one thinks anything's going on up here. And that's
exactly.
I'm saying it's like this man is fucking brilliant most times when it comes to business and movies and his business, you should say. I love Stallone, man.
Yeah. And that's why Bullet to Head is such a great movie. Like it's a low key action film for Stallone, and and it's total Walter Hill, and it is, and I like I said, it's probably out of Walter Hill's, besides Extreme Prejudice and Streets of Fire, it's probably one of the ones I've seen the most in the last few years, or I've gone back to. I don't know why. I mean, there's so many to choose from, and I'm like, and then I'm asking myself, why didn't I watch this Walter Hill movie more? I don't understand it. I don't know why. But you ever feel like, why you get into moods for a certain movie? Like all of a sudden it just hits you. And I'm like, I want to watch this movie, and I don't understand it. But like for some reason, Bullet to the Head, I just and it might be the axe fight, it might be Stallone's performance.
I think it's a little bit of everything. It just because if it's just the axe fight, I'll throw it on and just watch.
I love it that it's Jason Momoa before Jason Momoa was cool. I knew Jason Momoa before Jason Momoa was cool. It's like This was before Conan. Was it right around the Conan time, or was it before Conan? It was right around that time, but he's clean shaven. Clean shaven, Jason.
He was a pretty boy. He's wearing like a suit in part of the movie. Do you know?
I'll stop with this, but do you know he was on the show Baywatch Nights with David Hasselhoff?
I have seen it in his IMDb, but I never watched the episodes that he's in it.
I seen it, and it's not bad. It's his first acting gig, I think, but it's just funny to see him in there. We
all got to start somewhere.
Exactly. So, yeah.
It's funny. I'm just looking at the cast list of Extreme Prejudice, and it is actually one of the best casts of all time.
William Forsythe,
Nick Nolte, Powers Booth, Michael Ironside, Maria Conchita Alonso, Clancy Brown, Matt Mulhern, Rip Torn, William Forsythe, Jimmy Ortega, Tommy Lister Jr. And by the way, the guy whose name you're trying to remember is Marco Rodriguez. He's the Hispanic,
the Mexican. Yeah. Thank you,
Deputy Cortez. Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about Extreme Prejudice enough, so we just want to give it some more love. But it's another one also that I've watched a lot. Jerry Goldsmith's score, like Jerry Goldsmith's music is always amazing.
I was going to go back to Jerry Goldsmith because it's not, it's one of the few composers he's worked with. But I just love how at the beginning they show all the mercs, and showing how they died, and then all of a sudden the sun starts coming up and the music starts playing. I love that intro, and I love that music intro. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Well, I mean, you got such a great guy. I interviewed Clancy Brown a couple of years ago, and he was such a cool guy.
You interviewed Clancy Brown?
Yeah, the Kurgan. Yeah, we had to talk about some movie. I don't even remember what the movie was. It's one of those ones where it's like it's like a 10-minute call.
10-minute one.
Yeah, I was like, I want to talk to you about these old films. I don't care about this.
The one where you get the text, "Can you please wrap it up, sir?" I'm like,
And I'm like, no, I want to talk Shoot to Kill. I want to talk Extreme Prejudice. I want to talk Highlander. All these movies back then. So he was definitely a favorite. So moving on to The Assignment, which is actually Walter Hill's last film, maybe his worst film.
He needs to make another one because he cannot end his career on this.
He is. He's doing a Western right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's
go back to the well.
Walter Hill doing Westerns is a happy place. Okay, that's fine because that's what he's good at.
I actually want to go back and finish the movie just because I couldn't. I don't know if I was tired or if it was just so far out there, or Michelle Rodriguez with Man Parts. I don't know what it was. It just wasn't grabbing me.
Yeah, it's such a sort of ridiculous. That's the only movie he's done which is sort of ridiculous.
And they're trying to make Michelle. They're trying to make Michelle Rodriguez look like a man. It's just Michelle Rodriguez with a beard.
Yeah, that's literally it's just her with a beard. I mean, she's probably a guy anyway. But anyway.
I am out. I'm not.
It's boring.
Just tell me how it is,
And it's just it's Tony Shalhoub talking to Sigourney Weaver, and then I'm like,
Sigourney Weaver is actually crap whenever she plays a villain. I've seen like a couple of movies, and I was like, wow, she's really bad, and like I love her, and other things like Galaxy Quest and Alien movies and things like that. But whenever she's playing a villain, I'm like, oh wow, she's really not very good at
Cabin in the Woods is probably one of the few, and it's so small of a part where she's the villain at the end. But I'd rather have just Sigourney Weaver being like the voice over the intercom, which is what she does in a lot of other things. It's just let her be the voiceover. I'm fine.
Or be Ripley. That's also fine.
Or be Ripley.
I mean,
I can't comment on this movie because I only made it 30 minutes.
I saw it in the theater as part of TIFF.
Does it get any better? Is there shooting?
No, there is some action in it, and the score is quite cool. I remember, but I've only watched it once, and it's the only one of his films I didn't bother buying. I've sort of seen it whenever I walk past it in the store, and I'm like,
And I've heard, and I heard no good. And again, I don't listen to other people. Well, except I respect your opinion, of course, and then Charlie, now that I know you, but like for the most part, I heard no good things about this movie whatsoever. Yeah. But then I'm like, we're doing Walter Hill, so I'm like, I'll try it, and I'm like,
this is the first I'm hearing of it. I mean,
I tapped out.
It came out in 2016.
Yeah,
so I heard about it in 2022.
Yeah.
So
because it was initially called. Yeah, it was initially called Tomboy, and then everyone was up in arms. You can't call it that. That's offensive. And then they changed it to Reassignment. It was called Reassignment whenever I saw it, and then whenever it was released, it was called The Assignment. So they just kept changing the name. So yeah, I think that's probably one of his weaker films. Definitely, it's not one I'm in a rush to watch again. I see it coming off Amazon Prime sometimes, and I'm like, no.
Not even for free. Yeah. It's like I can watch it. Free. Yeah. I'm already paying for Prime, and I'm still not gonna watch
the technical free. I love that. Well, I can watch it for free. You're already paying for that.
Yeah, I am paying for that. Right? I don't have Prime anymore, but yeah, even when I did have it, I heard so many bad things about it. I was like, I can't do it. And then finally, I was like, I'm gonna do it because we're talking about Walter Hill. I tapped
out. So yeah, I mean, I still haven't really made peace with what my number one is, but I'm sticking with Hard Times anyway, just because Bronson's
changed it 3 times. This
no,
it's
Hard Times.
Back.
That's how you know he's a super fan, because he's like, I can't do it. I can't. It's like when people ask me for my when people ask me for my favorite movie of all time, I can't do it. I just can't.
I have no answer for that.
Sometimes I say Aliens just because it hit back in 1986 when I saw it. I thought it was like the best thing ever. It was like action mixed with horror, and but for the most part, I can't do it. And that's why I don't do top 10 lists for the most part. I did a Chuck Norris top 5 for his birthday, and I got a lot of good reviews on it. People say, but I'm like, it was so hard for me to do it. I'm like, I don't know how many times I changed it, and
look how hard it is for me to choose a favorite film here. I couldn't do a top 10 for years, literally years. I think I'd love to do a top 10 Walter Hill films, and I'm like, I couldn't do it.
If I'm gonna say top 3 Walter Hill movies, I know you have your favorite, Hard Times, but Extreme Prejudice, I just adore that movie. So that's my number one. And then Streets of Fire, and then Last Man Standing. That's my top 3. I could without a doubt say that.
Yeah, Last Man Standing is so good. I haven't watched it for a while. I need to watch it again.
And then I watched it this week, and I was so sad though, because it's like, I miss you, Bruce Willis. I miss you so much.
Christmas is going to be so hard.
And my friend and I, we went to go see Doctor Strange today, and we were talking about it because I was telling him about how I was doing this tonight, and we were talking about Bruce Willis, and he said the same thing. He's like, and I said it. I said, there will never be another Bruce Willis. No. Never, ever, ever, ever. And
it's the same as we're not getting any of our old actors.
Arnie, Sly. I mean, there's never going to be another Sly or
Arnold. There's never going to be another one of them. What we get now is we now have our Scott Adkins. We now have
Jason Statham. And everything. And they're awesome. They're awesome. But there was just something about the 80s. I don't know because it's how I grew up watching them. It just, you had to have lived it to appreciate it. And
that's the difference. But I can tell you, when I can put these movies on for my kid, and I can see the same light, like this in total enjoyment come out of him. And I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but the moment I realized my son was ready for action movies, I had Delta Force on in the shop, and he was just out there, any kid, what are you doing, Dad? And I was working on something, and I didn't hear him for a second. And I'm like, what's he doing? And I turn around, and he is staring at the television, arms crossed. And it's the scene where Chuck's riding the motorcycle to get onto the plane.
Yeah. What kid's not going to like that?
I couldn't have pried him from the television had the building been on fire. And he was glued. And I went, it's time. He's about my age.
It's time.
And now he can't get enough of it. He's like, what's the next one we're going to watch? As I try to keep nudity to a minimum, but it's like, we're going to watch RoboCop. It's the bloodiest fucking movie ever. And we're going to watch it. You're going to love it. And he does, he's like, this is freaking awesome, Dad.
You're going to watch a robot tear a man to shreds, and it's gonna be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And watch a guy go into some toxic waste, and it will not end well for him.
Nope, not at all.
And then he
But,
gets
you
hit
know-
by a car.
Yeah.
It's like,
I miss
you know-
the casual violence of these old school movies, man. They were
dude.
fucking awesome. Where it's just people just getting destroyed.
And then going back to Walter Hill, I just think, and again, I've been an avid complainer about today's society and how people have sticks up their asses. No offense, you do. I mean, people do, and it just drives me
I like
crazy.
that. You gotta stick
Yeah.
up your ass. No offense.
Hey, no offense, fuck you.
You do.
It's
Hang
fine,
on.
John. I gotta poke at you.
I don't get political, but I'm like, it's just ridiculous anymore. And I get it. You offend people, but it's like, if you're offended, don't watch it, don't listen to it.
Mm.
And I just love the political incorrectness of Walter Hill's movies. He didn't care. He made the movies he wanted to make, and like I said, it's just you will never get these types of movies again unless they're like really independent.
Yeah,
You know,
no
type
studio would
movie.
make them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hollywood's not producing those movies.
You're not going to
No.
see it in the not on
No.
the big screen anymore.
But that
Yeah.
was, I mean, I know we never really dove into it, but there are like 48 hours, another 48 hours, Warriors. There are a lot of racial
Slurs.
stereotypes,
Yeah.
slurs.
Oh,
Not
how
even
many
just racial slurs, but homophobic
Oh,
slurs.
just
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
how many
Woo!
times is the N word spoken? And every time I hear
Oh
it, I'm
my
like,
God.
ooh. I'm
And
like,
even when Nick Nolte says it, you're like, Nick,
Yeah, no, you can't do that,
you
Nick.
can't say that. You can shoot the guy, but you can't say that.
Yeah, shoot him. But and then sometimes he'll say something that it's not the N word, but it's almost just as bad.
Oh, yeah, I know the
You
exact
know which
line.
one I'm
when I
talking
watched
about.
it
And
recently,
we're
I was
not
like,
saying
did
it.
he just say that?
or
Yes.
James Remar in the Warriors. It's like he says the F word like 8 times, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
James, you can't.
I was
say that.
watching that today, going, "Ooh, not today, boys."
No, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I believe they've been talking about doing a remake of 48 Hours recently. I was like, yeah, don't.
How?
It will suck.
Why?
How?
You couldn't.
No.
I don't know how they're pulling off the 4th Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know how. I don't know if
I'll
Eddie
believe that
Murphy's
when I see it.
capable of it.
Yeah.
Well, they did come into America, so I mean, now I kind of have to be like, it's possible.
You know why it's possible? Because of streaming.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would never go to theater. That's why they can't do it.
Streaming is making a lot of these movies possible where before it wasn't the case. And streaming is starting to get successful because when COVID hit, people got turned off the movie theater.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
now everybody's tired of being stuck at home, and now
Well,
they're raising the price of streaming. Now it's
Mhm.
almost as expensive, if not more, than
Well, they're
cable
raising
was.
they're raising the price of movies. The Batman was more expensive for tickets.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we paid a lot more to go see that one, and I'm
And it
sure
wasn't
Doctor
worth
Strange
it.
is the same.
No.
Yeah, no.
I liked it.
Don't get popcorn. You're not walking out of there by yourself for less than $50 if you want to drink and popcorn. You're
I can't
done.
have popcorn anymore, unfortunately. I'm
No.
not able to have it. The last time, it was a funny story. Last time I had popcorn was at a movie theater, and it was we're seeing Annabelle Creation, and I remember I was eating the popcorn halfway through the movie.
Oh,
Oh no, oh no! And then as soon as the end credits go, I was out.
oh, it's
And-
gone.
oh yeah, ran into the toilet.
Oh man.
But what's the worst possible thing that can happen in a public place? Okay, you've just done that in the toilet. You flush it.
No toilet paper. Or it floods.
It starts to flood. And I was with the girls. And I was like, okay, we're leaving right now. What's wrong? We're leaving right now. Get in the car.
Go.
Let's go right now. We're never
Building
coming
is
back
on
here again.
fire. Go.
That would be better.
There you
Pull
go,
the
everybody.
alarm as you go.
You're welcome, America. We've gone from Walter Hill to what could happen in a public restroom, everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You never
So-
know what you're going to get on these live streams,
That's
especially
what
when
actually
J-Man's
is.
not here.
Yeah.
This is your fault, J-Man.
Yeah. So, by the way, J-Man's favorite one is the Warriors. So, we'll just put on you
I
for
think he
What-
said
what's your
that
favorite?
last week. He was
Yeah.
like, because he even reminded us. He was like, yeah, Walter Hill did Warriors. We're all like, shit, he did, didn't he? And it's like, I totally forgot he did Warriors.
Oh no, I mean that's sort of his big one. That's the one
Yeah.
when most people say the two movies which people talk about the most when is of Walter Hill. It's The Warriors and Streets of Fire. Like
Yeah.
someone commented in the post there, said my favorite is Streets of Fire because Streets
Yeah.
of Fire is unlike anything else which I've seen. It was
But
such a unique film.
as a kid, I didn't give a shit who the director was.
No,
you
that's
know,
the thing,
I found a badass movie and I would watch it and I would follow an actor, Arnold, Stallone, all that stuff. But until I got older, to where I would go, oh, that's the director. Oh, that's why I like that movie or that movie or that movie. I'm like, I like that director. And because beforehand, I'd been like, I have no fucking clue who directed half the movies I watch. You know, John McTiernan wasn't a household name till I was in my 30s. Then I was like, oh, John McTiernan, that's you know, action god to me now.
But you bring him back, for crying out loud. It's like,
no shit.
Yeah, it's like all the older directors, they sort of punted, and then they got all these younger ones who are mostly fucking terrible, and just make shit movies. And I was like, bring back John McTiernan. Where's Robert Zemeckis? Where's
why weren't
these
those guys?
Or
Joe Dante?
Yeah,
Joe Dante. Yeah. Was the guy who did American Werewolf in London?
John. No, I thought it was Landis, wasn't it?
John Landis. John Landis. Yeah, John Landis. Haven't seen him do anything for a while. I was like, where's all these guys? Bring them back.
I mean, why weren't they the ones that brought us Expendables? I mean, they were the godfathers of it, but it took one of the actors to go, I need to get all the action guys together and put out a movie. You know, it should have been John McTiernan going, you know what, I want to direct all you assholes because I think it'd be a blast, you know.
Kurt Russell wanted to do it in the 80s. Remember, Kurt Russell said he had an idea of having them all. And I was like, imagine we got that, and you got like John Matrix and John McClane in the same movie or something. I mean, that would have been incredible.
I would have loved that.
The movie would have had to have been 4 hours long, though, because you need to give everybody their space. I know, but I'm just saying it would have to be.
Well, you're also talking a height of their egos. So you had to have, everyone would have had to have 20 minutes each. You know, no, I get 20 minutes in this movie to get my stuff done.
And I can only be hit 3 times, and then I have to hit him 5 times.
Yeah. I'm not going to bleed in this movie.
Yes.
He has to bleed.
I don't lose my fights. I don't lose my fights.
Exactly.
Speaking of Jason Statham, what happened to that movie he had coming out? Remember, it was the Guy Ritchie film.
Operation Rogue.
Yeah, Operation Rogue.
They like canned that, didn't they?
They didn't can it. They took it off the release schedule for the time being. And what I think is going to happen, it's going to land on streaming.
Streaming at some point. Yeah, I don't know why they should have just released it, because I was looking forward to seeing a Statham movie in the cinema again.
I think okay. And again, this is not me talking, but I think they felt they were going to lose money on it if they
maybe. Yeah.
Well, I never got to see the other Guy Ritchie movie that came out. What was it, The Gentleman or something like that?
I saw that on Netflix.
I can't find it.
It's on Netflix?
Is it on Netflix?
It
was supposed to come out on my birthday when it released in theaters, and it released to like 20 theaters in the United States. And I'm like, that's some fucking bullshit, because I love.
Didn't that come out during COVID or just at the beginning of COVID? I think
beginning of COVID. I think it was.
That's right. Yeah.
Right at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And the release day was my birthday, and I'm like, that's the movie I want to go watch. And we called like from a 50-mile radius. No, we don't have it. No, we're not playing it. And I'm like, this is bullshit. And then I never got a DVD. I never saw it. I was like,
I see it in Walmart quite a lot. So I watched it once, and it's pretty good. Yeah. I didn't buy it.
Like it.
I saw it once. Yeah.
I like his type of movies. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but
you
know, I enjoy a Guy Ritchie, and I've always liked Statham, so I was like, I got to enjoy part of this movie.
I'm excited to see what they do with his new one. They just announced The Beekeeper. I'm like,
yes,
he's a beekeeper that gets pissed off.
Between that and the second Meg, I'm looking forward to what they do with the second Meg movie. So
I hope it's better than the first Meg movie.
Make it R, please.
Yeah,
please. Giant shark movie, and you're gonna make it PG-13.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jaws was PG-13, but
it had more blood than Meg did.
Yeah, but it was still and the Meg for me, I enjoyed it when I watched it at home, but I remember I ended up having to rewrite my entire review because my first review was a rant. Because I had the worst cinematic experience ever, and I was insulting everyone in the audience writing it because. Like some stupid bitch bought her kid in a pram or stroller, whatever you call it, and the kid was like crying the whole way through the fucking movie. And I was like, I'm going to feed this kid to a shark if you don't get out of here during this fucking movie. And so then there's some guy and his kid, and they were talking throughout the movie. And just everybody was talking.
See, that ruins a great movie.
Yeah,
even, you know,
and that's the thing. Yeah, and then when I watched it at home, and I was like, okay, actually, this movie was fun, but by the time at the end of the movie, I was like, I hate this movie. I hate everything. I hate this world. Yeah, so
I hate
that
air. I hate
yeah.
everything.
Fucking clouds.
Fuck you, popcorn.
Oh yeah, no, I still say that. Yeah, oh my god.
Overpriced milk
PTSD.
duds. You know.
Yeah. Anyway, as usual, we kind of went off topic. So
We did.
next
Again,
week. Next week will
third
be
time.
next week we're going to talk about Death Warrant, which we talked.
We only
about
have to
last
watch one movie next week.
Yeah, it's just one movie, which I think is better.
That I think we've all already watched like twice or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen Death Warrant a ton of times, but I'm going to watch it again.
I've watched it a ton.
Yes.
But because next week is the last week, and then the week after I'm going on vacation, and I'm going to be going home for a few weeks. So I'll probably be about 3 or 4 weeks until the next show. So
that works.
Well, we've only got one person viewing anyway, so I'm sure nobody gives a fuck if we come back.
It gets views once it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, nobody ever watches it on the thing. So anyway, does anybody else have anything they want to say about Walter Hill or any movies we haven't discussed? I know we didn't discuss Brewster's Millions and everything else, but that's not an action movie. We're keeping to the action movies.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know what? I didn't even remember he directed Brewster's. I saw it. I'm like, oh.
Neither did I until I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or Crossroads with the Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
I'm like, I totally did not know that was a Walter Hill movie. I mean, I think I watched that when it first came out, but I haven't seen it since.
Nope, I'm just gonna go back in the shop and put Bullet to Head back on again tomorrow. That's what.
Yeah,
that's
I started watching it earlier, so I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, you're gonna watch some Viking axe fighting. It's like there you go.
Obviously.
And I tell you what, Charlie, I read your again. I couldn't make it to the. Well, actually, there was no theater close to me playing The Northman, but I want to see that movie so bad.
I'm just gonna buy it 4K.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm buying it too. I watched it in theater, and I can't wait to buy it. It's an experience. It's not an action movie in the term of action movie. Just as long as you know that.
Yeah.
Read my review. It'll tell you exactly.
Oh, I did read. Yeah.
Everybody out there, go to Action Elite. Read the review about the.
But again, okay, going back to the last thing about Walter Hill, unapologetic, kick-ass, didn't give a shit filmmaker.
Manliest man who ever manned.
Whoever fired a gun in a movie. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make this gun sound like a cannon. It's like I just love it. You know?
Yep.
Like,
we're gonna build Arnold a gun in Red Heat that doesn't exist, but you're gonna believe it does.
It's gonna be more badass than Dirty Harry's gun.
Dirty Harry's gun.
He's definitely a sort of a dying breed of director. I mean, we're not going to see that kind anymore because it's all agenda. Identity politics and everything in movies now, where you can't just make something to entertain.
You're going to get independence, but you're not going to get full budget.
No, and that's the thing. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm absolutely roasting. So, I think we talked enough about Walter Hill for one night. So, so remember to like and subscribe to everybody, to the Action Elite, to Action Flicks, and to Give Me Back My Action Movies. And we will see you next week for Death Warrant, and then a break afterwards. And so remember, if you are watching, all one of you, please remember, you are the Action Elite.
Warriors, come out to play.